Yeah, it's Brian. Hold on, let me get out my studio.
All right.
So I own Social Chats. That's my internet radio station. I just streaming it on my platform. I've been live streaming since 2010. So let me get Brian in here. He's busy. I hope he can come back in. Hold on.
Where is he located?
He's in Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian knows quite a bit about this. Also, he actually used to go to. I don't know if you knew Dr. John Chrysler. Do you know of him? He's a
No, I
testosterone
don't.
doctor. Yeah, well, he used to go to him. Let me try to get a hold of him right now. Okay, so we're gonna go. It's completely lost track of time. Join us. Okay, so let me share this. Share via. So we're just gonna go ahead and start. Okay. Let me get a. Yeah, I've tweeted out some stuff about your book and everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and start because I wanted the idea about doing this today was to get you kind of comfortable with Twitter Spaces.
Yeah.
Because I would like to continue our conversation on here about you, about your books. If you saw in the video that I promoted, that I created about you, I wanted to focus on your book. We'll focus on some other aspect of your project and things that you've done in the past.
Sure.
But today is just to let people know who you are, and this is going to be my series. But I'm hoping that I can be your co-host to help you create your brand and host. Have you do some Twitter Spaces, and then I'll be your co-host. So I'll run everything. So this way you can, pretty much moderate your content, and it'll be really organic.
Fab. Good.
Ross, before we start, can you go ahead and tell our listeners? And again, welcome and thank you for coming to Twitter Spaces, and thank you for believing in me. Let me go ahead and show you the new way of communicating and getting your message out. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to go on to talk a little bit about the book?
Sure. My name is Ross Pelton. I'm originally a pharmacist. Now I call myself a recovering pharmacist. A number of years ago, I was a standard American diet kind of guy, and I found a yoga class, and that got me exposed to people who were passionately interested in health. This was back in 1979. But these people read health books and health magazines and health newsletters, and they ate healthy and exercised regularly. And so by getting involved in yoga, I started to just absorb all this health information like a sponge. And with my background in medicine and science and pharmacy and so forth, I just started to passionately read everything I could find about health, and that yoga changed my life. It got me focused and interested in health. And ever since then, I've been studying everything related to health. And then I began writing about it and teaching it. And now I've branded myself as a natural pharmacist. And my website is naturalpharmacist.net. I've just written my 12th book, my book on rapamycin, which is soon to be published as my 12th book. And I'm just passionate about everything related to health. A little bit more about my background. I lived in Mexico for 6 years, where I was the hospital administrator of an alternative non-toxic cancer therapy hospital. And two of my books are on alternative cancer therapy. A number of years ago, I wrote a book that's actually kind of a classic almost a textbook in the medical and pharmaceutical profession. It's titled The Drug-Induced Nutrient Depletion Handbook. And that book teaches pharmacists and physicians and other healthcare professionals, as well as the general public, what nutrients are being depleted by the drugs they take. We go to a doctor and we get a prescription that's supposed to help us, and then it starts depleting nutrients, which creates more problems. So this is a problem that can be corrected if people learn about this. When I wrote the Drug and Nutrient Depletion Handbook, I was astounded to learn that oral contraceptives deplete more nutrients than any other class of drugs. So that motivated me to write a book called The Pill Problem, which teaches women about the nutrients that are depleted from oral contraceptives and how to avoid or correct a lot of those problems. And now, fast forward into the future, I'm the scientific director of a Dallas-based company called Essential Formulas, and we market world-class premier probiotics. And our key product lines are Dr. Ohhira's probiotics, which we have the sole rights to distribute in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. And Dr. Ohhira's is really unique and different than every other probiotic in the world because it's made in a multi-year fermentation process that results in the creation of over 500 postbiotic metabolites. And this is really what I call the new frontier in microbiome science, learning how probiotic bacteria function. For decades and decades, we've known that probiotic bacteria provide health benefits, but nobody really understood the mechanism of action. Now we're starting to understand that probiotic bacteria ferment dietary fibers and compounds called polyphenols in the colon or the large intestine, and they turn those compounds into secondary products we call postbiotic metabolites. And we're now learning that these postbiotic metabolites are master health regulating compounds that influence every single organ system in the body. So this is starting to give us a deeper understanding of why and how the biome in the gastrointestinal tract is really the foundation.
I lost you there for a second. Ross? Some of those by signal. Yeah, I want to talk about the pill factor. I've always been curious on all these women who have been on the birth control pills, and if and the nutrition it has caused lack of nutrition in their body. I'm kind of curious how far it is, and they talk about the pill and women's cancer, breast cancer. So, is there any correlation? Is there any maybe is that one of the reason why? Because it depletes so much nutrient over time. So while we're waiting for Ross to come back, let's see. Did his phone die? I hope his phone didn't die. I forgot to tell him Twitter Spaces eat up quite a bit. Hi, Ariel. We're trying to get my doctor on, my pharmacist on, my author and pharmacist. I think we're having a little technical difficulty. We've been having it all day. We have to reschedule. I'll be back. I'll answer your question. I got it. I just got to upload it to you. Hi, Stu. How are you? We're running a little technical difficulty. We might have to reschedule. Yeah, I'm very excited about working on this project with Ross Pelton in his new book. And I wanted to ask him more about the mTOR, but we'll bring him back and find out more about rapamycin. That's a therapy I haven't tried yet. I'm looking into it. So I think it might be good for me, especially since this whole pandemic thing, just to work on my mTOR. And because of the pandemic, I just remember early on, before the lockdown, as you want to call it, this was part of the research that I was doing with the Age Reversal Network organization. That's the part of the research is rapamycin and lowering the mTOR. I take metformin, which is a medication for diabetic, but I use it for longevity. So I take 500 milligram a day. And sometimes it varies. I was going to talk to Ross some more about that and see. Hopefully, he can get back on. I think his phone died on us, and now he's probably having a hard time getting on. This is his first time. I'm trying to get him going on this because I want him to come back on and host his own space, and I'll be helping him as his co-host on this project to raise more awareness about all the different books he's written. This is his 12th book he's written, so I'm excited about this. This is one of the things that I love to read about, talk about, meet all the scientists and researchers behind this. And Ross Pelton is one of them. And we had a late start, so we just kind of like messing around just to see. Then we'll have to reschedule everything back. I'm going to give him another 5 minutes. He was explaining to me his books, but I think I'm going to have to reschedule next week with him or later on. Let's see. I know, right? Nothing ever works on Twitter Spaces. Hey, okay, I'm just texting him right now. I wonder if he can hear me. And then my co-host lost track of time. He's on another space answering questions. So funny. Everybody's. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and shut this space down and and call Ross on his phone and kind of go through some stuff with him. But okay, he can hit back. Evelyn, you can't hear me. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Your mic. See, he hear me, but it's your. I hear you. Unmute. So unmute your mic. There we go. That happens too when you forget to. I've been there, but he can hear me, so he's here. He's just his microphone is muted. It's in the bottom left corner, Ross. It says mic. Or I think there we go. Now you're a listener. Let's bring you back up again to speak. Ross, you might have to like turn your phone on and off. Now you're in listener mode right now. Let's see. Why don't you request the mic for me? Hit the microphone symbol. There you go. Hopefully that should let you come up again. Yeah, it brought you down to listeners, so you don't have a microphone. So I just invited you to speak. Okay. I can hear you. Oh, there
Can you hear
are.
me? Can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you now. Yay.
Hey. Boy, no idea what happened there. I was hearing you the whole time.
Oh, perfect. So no, it's fine. Like I said, this. I wanted you to get comfortable on the Twitter Spaces. This is your first time. I'm just happy to be the one introducing it to you. I have my good friend Ariel is in the space here with us too. He's popping in. I co-host for him too. So let me bring Ariel in. So
can you still hear me?
Oh, you sound perfect.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
I was listening to you the whole time.
No worries. No, I was saying you heard me talk about the pill factor, right? As far as
I heard you talk about it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that. Like I was on the Depo-Provera shot, and I felt that changed my body quite a bit. And so, hey, Ariel.
Hello, hi guys. Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi, so Ross, is that your name?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm one of me and Tanya have been friends now on Spaces for how long now? Is it 7 months, 8 months?
Yeah, since the
Yeah,
beginning.
Well, I look forward to getting more knowledgeable about it myself here. This is very exciting.
excellent. What part of the country are you in?
I live in Southern Oregon. We're about
Mm,
16 miles north of the California border, about 5.5 hours away from Portland.
got it. Well, I guess we share something in common. I'm in Southern California, so we're
Ah,
both at the southern parts of our
well, I
states.
lived in San Diego for 25 years before I moved up here.
Oh, cool. I live in LA, so the one of the mega cities.
Yep.
So yeah, very nice.
That's why I moved up here. Wanting to
Oh,
get out of mega cities.
oh yeah. Like I feel you. Like the traffic and
Yep.
just like the amount of people and just it's just population densities that are smaller, just a little bit better because like you get to know people a little bit more instead of like bumping
Yeah.
into them all the time.
Plus, we've got outdoors. We got mountains and hiking trails and biking trails and trees all around.
Oh well, I'll come and visit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ario has drone. He's a drone pilot.
Oh yeah.
This is perfect for him.
Ah.
Oh yeah.
So where would we like to go from here?
So I wanted to you were telling me about start doing yoga and then led you to writing your books and speaking about health.
Yeah. So you want me to just kind of continue from there?
Yes, please continue.
Okay. So after I got really interested in health and committed to it, of course, I changed my lifestyle but I just continued to absorb all the health information and health books and health newsletters and articles and so forth. And I started to talk about it and tell friends about it. And then I started to write about it and teach about it and do seminars. And eventually I started to write books. And now last couple of years, I've written my 11th, and my Rapamycin book will be my 12th book. My 11th book was on Dr. Ohhira's probiotics, which is really a revolutionary product that's critical for health. The microbiome is really the foundation of our health. And now my new book, Rapamycin, I'm very excited about because rapamycin is the most effective life extension drug that's ever been discovered. 25 to 40% life extension in all animal species that it's been tested on. And there's very good indication that it's going to do similar benefits for humans. We can't do life extension studies on humans because it's too long and too expensive and actually unethical. But there's a lot of scientists around the world that are studying the health benefits of rapamycin. And what I wrote about in my book, in addition to the very exciting news about rapamycin as a life extension drug, I started to realize that the scientific studies over the last 2 decades that have started to try to understand how and why rapamycin works has really discovered a totally new understanding of cellular biology. And so this is really an even bigger story than the drug rapamycin itself, because when they understood the mechanism of action for rapamycin, it uncovered and discovered a cellular mechanism that is totally out of balance in almost every human being on the planet. And it's something that's actionable, something we can change when we understand it. So let me explain that a little bit. I'll take time to explain how
Yes,
rapamycin
please.
works, and subsequently this totally new understanding of not just cellular biology, but of health and the aging process. So when rapamycin gets absorbed into a cell, crosses the cellular membrane, goes into a cell, it binds to an enzyme. And they named this enzyme mTOR, which is a little bit of a strange name, but let me explain why that name was chosen. The drug rapamycin was discovered by a team of Canadian scientists on a scientific expedition to Easter Island back in 1964. And so rapamycin was discovered in soil samples taken back to Canada from Easter Island. And the indigenous people in Easter Island called their island Rapa Nui. So the new drug discovery was named rapamycin after the island Rapa Nui, which is, again, Easter Island. So rapamycin binds to this enzyme, and they named the enzyme that it binds to mTOR, which stands for mechanistic target of rapamycin. But this enzyme, it senses nutrients in cells, and when nutrients are available, the mTOR signaling process tells cells to use the nutrients to build, to grow new proteins, and to build, grow, proliferate, and divide. So that's the mechanism that tells cells to grow and utilize the nutrients that are available. There's a counterbalancing mechanism in all cells called autophagy. And a Japanese scientist won the Nobel Prize in 2016 for his discovery of autophagy. And autophagy is the process of relaxation, kind of like sleep is a relaxation for humans. During sleep is our relaxation phase, but it's not really a total rest phase. There's a lot going on when we are sleeping. It's the same or similar with the autophagy phase inside cells. Although it's the rest phase, there's still a lot going on. And the things that are going on during autophagy are revitalization, renewal, detoxification. Our cells are able to target old, misfolded proteins and damaged cellular components and break them down and either reutilize the components to build healthy new proteins and enzymes or to remove them from the cells, the detoxification process. So we've got mTOR, which is build, and autophagy, which is rest, and those have to be in balance. And for 99.999% of human evolution, these two cellular processes were in balance. But in the last 200 or 300 years, these systems in cells have gotten terribly out of balance. And the reason they're out of balance is because these days we eat far too much and far too often. For most of human evolution, people did not get up in the morning and go to the refrigerator and open the refrigerator door and grab a quart of milk and make a bowl of cereal. People didn't eat 3 meals a day for most of human evolution. They had to work for their food, they had to hunt for their food. And my estimate is that people probably for most of human evolution only ate once a day and spent maybe 4 hours digesting their food. And the rest of the time, about 20 hours a day, they weren't eating. They were essentially fasting. These days, people eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, in between meal snacks, after meal desserts, evening cocktails. People are ingesting nutrients and calories all the time compared to our ancestors. And because we eat so much all the time, mTOR in cells is always being expressed, and autophagy seldom gets any time to be expressed. So people aren't doing the cellular revitalization and renewal and detoxification and the rest phase process. That's terribly out of balance. So there's two ways to make a change to get things back into balance. One is to engage in what we call intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. That will allow autophagy time to start to rebalance and get some access time to revitalize our cells and go through this renewal process and detoxification process. The other way to do it is take rapamycin. Rapamycin gets absorbed into the cellular membrane. It binds with the mTOR enzyme and partially inhibits it, which gives autophagy some time to function. And so that's the beauty of this new life extension drug, rapamycin. It allows autophagy time to express itself without people having to do the discipline of fasting. And although intermittent fasting is a very important process to improve your health and your longevity, most people on the planet are too much in love with their food. They're not going to do the discipline that's required for intermittent fasting. That's what rapamycin will do for you. And of course, the studies haven't been done yet, but I think if people engage in intermittent fasting and also take rapamycin, they'll get added benefits, and every cell in their body will start to function better, faster. But for now, this is very early in terms of human clinical trials and human studies. We have a lot of data on animal research showing that rapamycin not only causes life extension, it really slows down the aging process, slows down the onset of age-related diseases. And this is likely what rapamycin will do for humans. It's going to improve health and the function of every cell in your body so that ultimately you improve your health, slow down the occurrence of age-related diseases, and that produces life extension. But it's not just an increase in the number of years you're living, it's improving the quality of life. You're getting an improvement in your health span, not just your lifespan. So that's really the exciting news about rapamycin, is that the drug rapamycin is going to improve your health span, and all things in your life will get healthier and you go down your aging process. But the real key here is understanding this cellular mechanism of mTOR and autophagy, which have to be in balance. And what's another piece of this puzzle that's very exciting for me is that we now understand that in genetics there's a term called conserved traits. And conserved traits are genetic mechanisms in cells that have stayed the same over long eons of time because they're so critically important for how cells develop and function. What scientists have now discovered is that the mTOR and autophagy cellular mechanisms occurred originally when single cell organisms began to evolve on Earth 3.5 billion years ago, far before plants and animals and mankind started to evolve. This mTOR and autophagy cellular mechanism was part of single cell organisms when life began to evolve on Earth. So that's how important this message is. And it's critical that people learn this so that they can learn how they can improve their life, their health span, and their longevity. That's the big message in my new book that's soon to come out.
Thank you so much, Ross. I want to introduce you to my co-host, Brian. Hey, Brian.
Hello, Tanya. Good afternoon. Hello, Mr. Pelton.
Hi there, Brian. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm very fascinated by rapamycin. I come from the bodybuilding world. So once upon a time, it was eating, 5, 6 meals a day. But of course, the study of life extension, I've gotten away from that and intermittent fast and fast. I wanted to ask you, you know, about mTOR and say from the bodybuilding world and um, the whole thing is to increase leucine. Leucine is an amino acid found in protein, whey protein especially, and it seems to trigger mTOR. So where is it and that as you get older, we're finding also the science that older people should increase their protein intake to keep their skeletal mass and their muscle mass. And should there be a balance of increasing protein, but then take your fasting days?
Exactly. Yes, you need to be well nourished. In fact, rapamycin mimics calorie restriction because mTOR responds to nutrients. So when you're fasting, you're not taking in nutrients. And so one way to do that is calorie restriction. But calorie restriction, just reducing the number of calories, really doesn't solve the time you're eating. And what's really critical about this mTOR autophagy equation is to go periods of time without eating. So it's not just calorie restriction, it's the time restricted eating process, but it's still very important to be optimally nourished. So all of the calorie restriction studies that have shown health benefits, it's reducing calories without creating malnutrition. And your point, Brian, is yes, it's still very important to be well nourished, but still equally important to go periods of time without taking in nutrients so that you can activate autophagy. I'm also a great fan of bodybuilding. Let me just toss in a little anecdote about my history with this. In the late 1990s, William Evans wrote a book along with a co-author titled Biomarkers. And I read it as soon as it came out. And this book, Biomarkers, catalogs 10 of the most reliable biomarkers of aging. Every single one of those biomarkers is tied into your muscle mass. Right after I read that book, I went out and got myself a universal gym and put it up in my garage, and I've been doing weight training ever since. And I truly believe that strength training is one of the most critical aspects of health and longevity. So, along with diet and understanding the importance of time restricted eating and creating some time for autophagy to function, it's really critical for people to do some form of strength training, because if they don't, then over time there's a process called sarcopenia, where you're losing your body mass over time, and it's very hard to get that back once it's gone. And people who don't do strength training and that type of exercise will gradually lose their muscle mass over time, and that's a really critical part of the aging process. So it's not just balancing autophagy and mTOR, it's also using your body and maintaining your muscle mass over time. So I'm sure over time, you and I will have a lot to share about the importance of bodybuilding and weight training.
Oh yeah, I'm very huge proponent of weight training. I wanted to ask you about how rapamycin ties into sirtuins, and sirtuins are upregulated when you fast, and some ways to increase your sirtuins is when you're fasting. It's like drink green tea or add curcumin. Some of these, um, these things we found in herbs and spices and things like that. But how's rapamycin tied in sirtuins, and how is it tied it into even NAD plus? Because that's a big proponent of increasing the cell of the health, the health of the cell.
You're absolutely right. NAD plus and sirtuins are really critically important. NAD plus is a nutrient. Sirtuins are genes that regulate aging. And I'm currently reading David Sinclair's book called Longevity. I don't know if you're familiar with David
Oh yeah,
Sinclair.
yes I am.
So his new book is absolutely fascinating. He talks a great deal about the importance of NAD plus and the sirtuin genes. And he and his lab are some of the leading researchers on this in the entire world. And so I'm just starting to research and dive into and learn about the relationship between rapamycin, mTOR, autophagy, and the sirtuins, and how they all interrelate. But you're right on the money there. This is another critically important topic for aging. And so far, what I'm gathering is that I think that sirtuins kind of also are regulators of autophagy. It gets into AMPK, which is another mechanism that regulates autophagy, and that's why the drug metformin is so important. On my website and on my blog, I've got an article talking about metformin as the most important, up until now, life extension drug before rapamycin was discovered. But metformin is kind of like an accelerator for autophagy. So that's why this is a really critical drug for people to know about. And for life extension, metformin is the most commonly prescribed drug in the world for type 2 diabetes, but now we know it's a life extension drug, and just about everybody, adults, can really benefit from taking metformin along with rapamycin.
Does rapamycin have any effect on cancer cells? I knew early
it does. On. Yep, that's a good point to bring up, Brian. And actually, rapamycin is approved to treat some cancers. When samples of rapamycin were sent to the National Cancer Institute quite a number of years ago now, maybe couple decades ago. This is before we really understood the mechanism of action of rapamycin, but they understood that rapamycin suppressed the immune system, which is why it got approved by the FDA to use in organ transplant patients, so they don't have organ rejection. And then they sent samples off to the National Cancer Institute because there were some studies that indicated that it might have some anti-cancer activity. The National Cancer Institute did some studies and got very excited about it. They placed it on what they call their priority drug research status, because they found out that rapamycin is a totally new class of anti-cancer agents. Most anti-cancer agents, most cancer drugs, work by what's called the cytotoxic. They kill cancer cells, but at the same time, they kill other rapidly dividing cells in the body, like your bone marrow and like your gastrointestinal lining, and that's where all the side effects come from. Rapamycin is a totally new class of anti-cancer drugs. Rather than being cytotoxic, it's cytostatic. It just stops the tumor growth, but without killing it. So it doesn't have all the side effects. So rapamycin is an effective cancer drug against a lot of types of solid tumor cancers. But something that has really impeded the acceptance of rapamycin by traditional mainstream doctors is that rapamycin got labeled as a chemotherapy drug and as an immune suppressor. And usually you don't think of those classes of drugs as being something that is good for health and longevity and life extension. But really, rapamycin got misclassified. Instead of an immune suppressor, it's an immunomodulator. And now we understand from Joan Manick's first study on humans that rapamycin in the correct doses is a strong enhancer of immunity, not just an immunosuppressor. Should I take a minute to talk about Joan Manick's study and the first human trial that really kind of broke the ice to show that lower doses of rapamycin are effective for life extension and anti-aging?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a very important study. So up until Joan Manick conducted her clinical trial, they pretty much thought that rapamycin was an immune suppressive drug and used for cancer chemotherapy. But when people take rapamycin to suppress organ transplant rejection, they take it every single day. Well, Joan Manick had some intuitive insights that rapamycin regulates mTOR. And so she designed a study with 65 to 90-year-old elderly adults. And in elderly adults, compared to younger people, you have a dysfunctional immune system. As people age between 20s and 30s and their 60s, 70s, and 80s, your immune system is aging. You have a far less functional immune system than young people. So Joan Manick took these elderly people and divided them into 4 groups and gave them 4 different doses of rapamycin. Some of them got 1 milligram every day. Some of them got 5 milligrams daily. Some of them got 5 milligrams once a week. And some of them got 20 milligrams once a week. She gave them rapamycin at these different dosages for 6 weeks. And then she stopped the drug, waited for a 2-week washout period, and then all these elderly individuals were given a flu vaccine. And then she monitored how their immune systems reacted to the challenge of the flu vaccine. And it turns out that the people that were getting rapamycin 5 milligrams once per week had a tremendous boost in their immune system activation. And so this is the first clinical trial with humans that showed that at the appropriate dosage, rapamycin has some significant health benefits in enhancing the function of the immune system in elderly people. And so that started the whole chain of research into animal experiments and more work being done on humans, because we know that at correct dosing, at just minor or partial inhibition of mTOR, you get health benefits. If you give rapamycin daily all the time, you'll get a tremendous inhibition of mTOR, which will cause immunosuppression and cancer and all that sort of stuff. So it's finding the right dosage, which was resulting in partial inhibition of mTOR, that opened the door to the life extension and health improvement benefits of rapamycin. There's still a lot of studies to be done here, because we don't know if different people will do better with different dosage levels of rapamycin, what the various blood levels are that are the best target to try to achieve. And because of biochemical individuality, we'll probably at some point find that different people do better with different doses of rapamycin. And do women need different dosages than men do? That's one thing that over time we're starting to discover, that women really are different than men in many different ways. And for example, I'm one of my background, I'm a pharmacist, and one of the main sleep medications is called Ambien. The generic name is Zolpidem. After that drug had been on the market for over 20 years, scientists discovered that the effective dose for women is half the effective dose for men. But for decades, they've been prescribing the same dose for men and women. So I'm sure we'll find something like this with rapamycin also, because in the animal trials, female mice, for example, get longer life extension with rapamycin than men do. It's still significant for men, but there's a difference. And here's another important topic about rapamycin. In the animal studies with mice, when they start mice on rapamycin when they're already elderly mice, they still get life extension. The male mice get about 9% life extension, where female mice get 14 the equivalent of 14% life extension. So 9% versus 14% males versus females. But the exciting message there is that starting rapamycin late in life still gives significant health benefits and life extension. So this is suggesting that in humans, you can start taking rapamycin in your 60s, 70s, and 80s and still get significant health benefits. So that's another pretty important message about this whole rapamycin drug story and the mTOR autophagy importance in cellular health, and actually the aging process in cells. Cells have to get rest time so that autophagy can function, and you can renew and revitalize a lot of the old damaged cellular components, and or have them removed from the cells in a detoxification process so that your cells get younger again. They function like new cells.
Mr. Pelton, I'd like to know how rapamycin affects the mitochondria. Have you done any studies on does it enhance the mitochondria? Does it have any effect at all? And then maybe other systems in the body, if at all, like insulin sensitivity or inflammation?
Sure, you bet. Well, first with mitochondria. I don't know the answer to that. My intuition is that it's going to benefit mitochondria because every cell in your body starts working better when you're on rapamycin, and you get more time in autophagy. So that's my inclination, but I'd have to dive into that and see if anybody's really researched this yet. Your question about insulin sensitivity. Rapamycin improves insulin sensitivity. There's a significant amount of research on this. So in the animal studies, one of the reasons they get improvements in health, resulting in improvements in lifespan and life extension, is that things like insulin sensitivity do improve. So that's one of the things that's responsible for improving health over time. You get better insulin sensitivity and better regulation of blood sugar, blood glucose, blood insulin levels. So that's part of the equation, part of the reason why rapamycin is providing health benefits over time. Another thing I'll throw in here, Brian, since you're interested in bodybuilding, and there's a lot of research that needs to be done on this yet, because when you take rapamycin and partially inhibit mTOR, you're allowing autophagy to function, but partially inhibiting mTOR means you are partially inhibiting muscular growth and strength building, because that's the process in cells that allows the cells to use the nutrients to build and grow. And so I'm sure that we need to find out a great deal more about where the balance lies, because, for example, you would never want to give rapamycin to a young child because they're going through a very rapid growth phase, and you don't want to inhibit that. So up until now, the scientists I've talked to suggest that we really don't know for sure, but they're saying probably people under 25 should not consider taking rapamycin. It's too young. They're still going through a major growth phase, and we don't